If the National Conservatorium of Music goes ahead, it will benefit the Arts Centre Trust Board financially, as the City Council would lease the land and in turn lease the building to the university. The Arts Centre Trust Board say they need that money for maintenance on the buildings, in particular earthquake strengthening.
When we have a cash balance, which we hope to get, our first instance is to aim for about $10 million, which we think is quite achievable, then we intend to use the annual interest that will generate for our conservation work, and in the first instance that's going to be earthquake strengthening. So we're hoping that that cash will deliver about $1 million a year that can go straight into earthquake, which when combined with our conservation grant from the City Council of $400,000 a year, that'll give us a good amount really to get on with these projects. And generally each building costs between $1 and $2 million to do the earthquake work on. So we expect that we'll get through that work in about 20-year period, which for us is a very sensible and very prudent program.
Since 1978 and the beginning of the Trust Board, successive Trust Boards and their general managers have been doing seismic strengthening from day one. This has been a continual exercise. The interesting thing for me is the claim suddenly out of the blue that seismic strengthening of the cost of $30 million is suddenly needed, when we know from Arts Centre papers only a couple of years old, the internal papers say it's about $8 million worth of strengthening. Now, I don't know whether the larger figure was invented for public purposes or not, but what I do know is that I'm one of the best fundraisers in Christchurch. I could raise money for seismic strengthening for this complex easily without having to build a new building which is desperately disliked by enormous numbers of people, the citizens of Christchurch, to whom this arts centre belongs.
The Christchurch City Council voted 7-6 in favour of funding the development, and Mayor Bob Parker believes it will help bring young people back into the central city.
In between the four avenues of Christchurch, we've suffered for many, many years from a dissipation of intensity of business, and a number of opportunities have slid out of the city, and we're working very hard and have for a number of years, and certainly a focus of what we're doing right now is about rebuilding the centre of Christchurch. So when the music school was first mooted by the university, we were very excited because we see it as the reverse of a trend which has stripped out of the central city over the years. I know a number of opportunities for young people, a number of businesses have gone, and to see a major institution saying, actually, this is where we want to be, does feel very much like a significant level of support for what we're trying to do in Christchurch and rebuilding and revitalising the centre of our city.
The Arts Centre itself has an iconic value. The Arts Centre itself is a stage, it is a platform, it does have people who come and go. It is a centre which would attract both staff and students and creates the ambience entirely consistent with performance music. So from that point of view, if you were looking for a stage in the city, there's no doubt that the Arts Centre has that resonance to it, has that iconic value.
Well, I'd have to say that if it did go ahead, it would depend on whether the university delivers, as it's suggesting in the resource consent hearings, of injecting new life into the inner city. I seriously dispute that. You've just got to look at the numbers, Sam. It involves 61, on current enrolment, 61 full-time equivalent students. And admittedly the school is hoping to grow, but there's far, far bigger university music schools, both in Wellington, Victoria Massey, and in Auckland, numbering way more hundreds of students than we have in Christchurch.
All the numbers relating to the current enrolled students, projected enrolled students, the difference between an equivalent full-time student and a head count are all in the public domain. And it is not the case that there are 61 students in this program. It's about twice that number in equivalent full-time student numbers. And of course, most students are taking other courses, so the number of students taking and participating in music is in the hundreds.
Opponents have also raised concerns over what they see as a lack of consultation by the Arts Centre Trust Board.
Total lack of consultation with the public of Christchurch. At the end of the day, the people of Christchurch and New Zealand are the beneficiaries of the Arts Centre. We're the ones that the Kirk government and the university gave the land to back in the early mid-70s. And the Arts Centre, the Trust Board, are the guardians on our behalf with regards to the space. They have not consulted with the people of Christchurch at all with regards to this. They've gone ahead and done these plans and presented them pretty much as a fait accompli to us. This is what's going to happen.
It's interesting with the whole concept of consultation. A lot of people interpret consultation as getting approval or agreement, and that doesn't always result. But certainly, as we've seen in the recent resource consent process, a lot of the tenants are very supportive. There are some tenants who are opposed to it, and I guess where you've got more than 100 tenants, you're going to get a mix of opinions, just like you do in the balance of the community. So we fully anticipated that, really.
Lawyers acting for Save Our Arts Centre have also challenged the rights of the Arts Centre Trust Board to change its own trust deed and develop the site.
Obviously a trust deed which sets out the whole sort of foundation of which the trust is to be, the objects of the trust and how the trust is to be administered, and the powers of the trust board to carry out those objects of the trust. They changed that several times over the previous years. We're challenging them on these changes, but we're saying that they do not have the right to lease the land for 200 years, to make these changes to the trust deed to allow this sort of development to occur. It'll be heard in the High Court in August.
When you actually go back through the files and you look at what happened and why that happened, you'll see that those changes were actually approved in 2004. For whatever reason, the change wasn't made until 2007. And it appears that before the Trust Board put those changes into place, they sought independent legal advice separate from the advisors who'd prepared the changes, to say, are we able to make this change? Is it appropriate within the overall sort of review of the trust deed in terms of what rights we've got? And so they adopted a very cautious approach, and then ultimately the change was incurred.